Okay, the first lie that the Chinese told was that the virus came from the wet markets, like previous viruses, like SARS. But no, it did not come from the wet markets. We know it came from the horseshoe bat. And there is a picture of the horseshoe bat. I like to call it the Vagina-Faced bat. And there are a variety of vaginas you can look at if you Google horseshoe bat. Almost turns me on. And these bats were not sold at the wet markets in China. Were not sold for eating or bat stew. They were 550 miles away from the wet markets. They were collected and brought back to the viral institute there in Wuhan to be studied as at least of 2017. That was when the Chinese first did a documentary on it. And why do bats have so many diseases? That's because they eat insects. And insects have the diseases. That's where the bats get the viruses from. That's why we should not eat bats. But the Chinese closed down the wet markets that sell the bats. That sell anything from groundhogs to porcupines to deer. Any wild animal you can buy in the wet markets. Because the Chinese government does not provide for its people. The system under which the Chinese people are under requires them to eat wild animals in order to survive. That is why they eat bats. But they don't eat this particular bat. This bat was being only studied less than 300 meters from the wet market at the Viral Institute. It's the horseshoe bat. It carries a number of different viruses, including the coronavirus, and this is where it came from. And scientists around the world are now in agreement that this is where the virus came from. Google it. Horseshoe bat. Disgusting. I don't know how anybody could eat it. And, in fact, they were not being sold at the wet market there in Wuhan. But they do, oh man. I don't want to get into it, but another thing they do at these wet markets is they torture dogs and they cook them alive. Alright? Besides the enslavery of the Chinese people that America has been profiting off of, I have been profiting off of. I have at least 2 TVs, a computer, a surround sound system, a cell phone. Probably all made in China, probably all by virtual slave labor. Okay? We need to cut our ties with China. We need to isolate China like we do North Korea. Because they are enslaving their people. They use child labor. Alright? They don't pay their workers jack. The only people who make any money are the ones who work close to the government. Okay? And China is making moves. They have entered East Africa. They are taking over Ethiopia. Ethiopia owes the Chinese supposedly $85 billion. They will never be able to pay that back. Okay? But how could they pay that back? The head of the World Health Organization is an Ethiopian politician. The first time it was never a medical doctor. It's a politician from Ethiopia. And he was the one telling us the whole time, oh, coronavirus, no big deal. Can't be transferred person to person, he told us. Lies, because he's controlled by the Chinese. Meanwhile, China is stockpiling medical protective equipment. They received donations from Europe and America, and now they're trying to sell it back to us. We need to isolate China. They're a rogue nation. It's so clear now. Things that we donated to them, they're trying to sell back to us now. They had an outbreak in Wuhan. They might have stopped it. We don't know because they lie constantly. But if they did, you know how they did it? As if you had the Wuhan virus, you went straight into the incinerator. There are reports of people who are still alive, but in bad condition, being wrapped up into body bags and being thrown into the incinerator to turn to ash. They report like 8,000 deaths, but like 500,000 urns to hold the ashes have been ordered to Wuhan. They just killed everyone who accidentally got the virus. Okay? And this virus originally came from bats. But I have a master's in biotechnology from the University of Texas A&M. Okay? Viruses are very easy to manipulate. You can manipulate their DNA. Okay? You can make them more deadly, less deadly, more contagious, less contagious. You can do that by manipulating their DNA. And the Chinese have been studying this virus since at least 2017. And they're starting to take over Africa. Their nuclear weapons are on high-speed rails underground, so we can't nuke their nukes. They're developing their navy. They control the NBA, obviously. You can't get anybody in the National Basketball Association to say anything bad about China. And suspiciously, coincidentally, the NBA was the first one to shut down. Maybe they knew something we didn't. And the liberal city of Austin, Texas, second thing that shut down that was major, or West by West conference. Maybe they knew something we didn't know. Coincidence, maybe. They control the media now. NBC is the same company as Universal. They're opening a Universal Studios in China, hoping to make a bunch of money. So everything that comes out of MSNBC is Chinese propaganda. Okay? They now control at least half the media. Alright? You watch CNN? This hydroxychloroquine mixed with zinc. They had a supposed expert doctor on the other day to talk about it. He said, I've never heard of it. And the newsman was like, oh, you never heard of it. That's what's been showing the best results of keeping people from dying from the disease. Okay? We'll get into the Democratic involvement in the next post. Let's focus on the Chinese, please. Thank you, producer. So, they lied from the beginning. They lied about where the virus came from. They lied about how contagious it was. They lied about that it'd be contagious from person to person. And they control the World Health Organization, which America basically pays for. We pay for every world organization. And the Chinese were out there saying, oh, it's not contagious person to person. And they were sending 5 million flights out of Wuhan to the rest of the world. China needs to be held accountable. They owe us just a little over $1 trillion. Well, we just spent at least $4.5 trillion. So we're not going to pay back that $1 trillion, and we should just isolate China from the rest of the world. No more dependence on China for our medical supplies, our pharmaceuticals, and treat them like North Korea. Isolate them, and what's the other word I'm looking for? I can't think of it at the moment. Okay, we're running at 11 minutes, and my guarantee is that I give you accurate information, and I don't go over 10 minutes. So the word that I'm looking for is sanctions. Sanctions. Sanctions on the Chinese, the worldwide, at least North America and Western Europe, need to put sanctions on the Chinese for totally screwing the rest of the world and knowing they were doing it. They could have let the CDC in. They blocked it. It's time to cut ties with China world over. And not only because they're a rogue nation, also because my beautiful TVs, my surround sound system, computer, other things I cherish that probably got for a third of the price that they could have been produced in America, maybe even less. It's from slave labor, okay? We need to quit profiting from slave labor. It's a new emancipation proclamation for the Chinese people. Just like Abraham Lincoln did for the blacks. We need to do for the Chinese. Okay? Good luck and God bless.